What's up, guys? Welcome to the video. So last time I shaved was actually in July, and so 60% of my subscribers have never seen me fully shaven. So just don't worry, wait a couple days, it'll be back. Alright, so this question and answer session is going to be in two parts, mostly because YouTube doesn't account for madmen like me doing this kind of crazy shit, and it is going to be 75 questions in the first part, and then 75 questions in the second part. So in order to find your question, I would check the bar at the bottom of the screen, or you can check the description and Control F one of the keywords that you asked. Hopefully you can find it pretty easily. Or you can check the community tab. A few of the questions I will do a full video on. One of the questions was like, how do you increase your squat, bench, deadlift? That's much too general for a Q&A. That is definitely a full video topic, and I responded to the question in the community tab if I'm going to be doing a full video. All right, the first question is going to be, should you aim to always increase the weight that you are using? What if you tried a weight for 10 reps 1 week, maybe RPE 9 to 10, and stayed with the same weight, the same sets, the same reps? Everything is the same for the next week, but the effort level was reduced, maybe an RPE 7 or 8. Is that still progression? Well, not really, because you're not really progressively overloading, it's just getting easier. On the other hand, that's not the worst thing in the world because it does show that you've gotten better. I would say, however, in most cases, just do more reps. You know, if your goal is to do an RPE 9, why wouldn't you do those extra couple reps? Unless you're deloading, I don't think it really makes sense to hold back 1 week and not the next, and then flip-flop back and forth. Try to give a consistently good effort in your sets. All right, number 2, how can different variations of volume affect overall muscle development? An example of this would be doing a classic 5x5 set versus a long build to one 500 to 1,000 rep set. Imagine the intensity was equal. Well, that's the thing, the intensity won't be equal. If you go up in reps or down in reps, assuming, the effort level is pretty similar, the weight on the bar is going to be different. So you're always sacrificing or giving something up in training. You can't have it all. You can't have heavy weight and high reps. It just doesn't work that way. So to a certain extent, you have to decide, am I doing lighter weight for higher reps or heavier weight for lower reps? And then, or somewhere in the middle, somewhere in that continuum. And as for muscle growth, different people respond a little bit differently, but realize that you can't have everything and experiment in your training. You can use both at the same time, but see which one your body responds best to. It's going to be individual, and I think it requires experimentation. Number 3, hi, I have a small neck and trap area, but I can't train them directly because I get migraine headaches if I do. Do you think these areas will grow if I'm doing compound lifts like deadlifts, rows, overhead press, and squats in my program? Congrats on 10K subs. Thank you. Yes, definitely. The neck will grow. I do a little bit of neck training. Actually, I need to do more. I think it's an area that it can benefit from direct work, but just doing like lateral raises or rows or deadlifts, especially the traps, I think they can really benefit from that. I do almost no direct trap work. A little bit, but it's mostly from rows, from deadlifts, and just from having the passive tension on that area. So I would say you can definitely develop both of those areas without specific exercises, but it might help. Honestly, it's not worth getting migraine headaches over. No amount of muscular development is worth getting that kind of BS. So I would say it's not worth it, no. All right, the next question is, what part of the tricep is worked when bench pressing? What part of the bicep when rowing, etc.? I'm doing a push-pull leg split, and I want to know what to do to decrease my time in the gym. So the tricep has the lateral, the medial, and the long heads, and I wouldn't overthink this. Same thing with biceps when rowing. It's working the whole damn bicep. You can maybe emphasize one area by twisting or you switching your grip, but generally speaking, the entire tricep contracts. Again, you can focus on one area by pushing or twisting or whatever. But typically speaking, it's just going to contract as a whole, and I don't think it's really worth overthinking. I see all these videos where this is a short head movement, this is a long head movement. It's just not really worth going into that level of minutia for the vast majority of people. All right, number 5, are you planning to try Greg Doucette's training book to see if it's actually good? So I don't know if you mean the actual training plans in it or the actual part where it's teaching you. I think the answer to both would be no for different reasons. The training plans, I typically write my own programming just because I like experimenting. Maybe I'll incorporate some facets of it. I'm not saying they're bad by any means. I just won't personally use them in my training. And as for the first part, again, what was there wasn't bad. It was just kind of incomplete, and it's sort of more geared towards a beginner. So I personally didn't really get much out of that. I agreed with a lot of what he said, and I went really easy on him in my review. But in terms of like me learning something new from it, I don't think I was really the target audience, so I didn't really get much out of that, and I'm probably not going to incorporate anything new that I learned there just because there wasn't really that much of that. That's not really shade on him, it just I wasn't really the target audience. Number 6, how much cardio is too much? I recently started skipping rope. I spend 20 to 30 minutes per day and 3 times per week at the moment. I also walk 5,000 steps, blah, 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 blah. So if you're not gaining muscle and you're doing a lot of cardio, that's probably going to be the first place to look. Distance running seems to hurt gains the most, probably because it's just using a lot of energy. There's a lot of impact. It causes inflammation. There's a lot of recovery cost associated with running. Something like cycling would be less. Actually, cycling might give you some pretty decent quad gains. But I would say go by feel. 20 to 30 minutes, three times a week. That should be fine. There shouldn't be an issue. But again, it's hard for me to say because everyone is going to be a little bit different. Number 7, I got into lifting again, and I don't really want to chase big numbers all the time. What should be the minimum standards I should reach so it's not embarrassing myself when someone asks, and I don't have to further chase them anymore on overhead press, bench, deadlifts, and squats? Okay, so it really depends on the person. Like for me, I'm much stronger than the average person, but being in the fitness industry, often people are like disappointed when I tell them my lifts. My best lifts are 205 kilo deadlift, sumo, 135 kilo squat, high bar, below parallel, and 115 bench and 80 kilo overhead press, strict, and 100 kilo push press. And a lot of people are surprised because, they see, I'm decently developed, and they're like, oh, wow, I thought you'd be way stronger. And, I could be if I used fake weights, but, it really just depends on your environment. In a powerlifting gym, yeah, I'd be super embarrassed. In the average, commercial gym, or especially, in China, I'm the strongest person there, or at least, top 1% of people who go there. So I think it really depends on just your personal preference and your environment. I would say 1 plate overhead press, 2 plate bench, 3 plate squat, and 4 plate deadlift are fairly respectable for most of the people in most places. But again, it's up to you, and you can push that as far as you want to or not want to. Don't worry about other people. Even me, if I'm in the industry, at the end of the day, it's my training, my lifts, and if someone wants to criticize me for not being super strong, feel free. Number 8, hey buddy, really happy that your channel is growing, but not at the level it should. I'm not sure whether to feel flattered or not good because I'm not good at marketing or whatever. You are the most underrated fitness YouTuber I have seen. Okay, blah, 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 more praise, thank you. My question is, as a natural lifter, what should the benchmark reps for push-ups and pull-ups be at a single time that should define physical pinnacle? Well, everyone's pinnacle is going to be a different size, let's put it that way. I would say I respect someone who can do more than 30 to 40 push-ups at a time, and more than 50 is very impressive. And then as for pull-ups, it depends on your form, really. For strict reps where it's all the way up, and then a good range of motion with your chin actually over the bar, yeah, not reaching for the bar. I would say 5 is pretty respectable. 10 is very good, and 15 is excellent. But again, it depends on your form. You can double your reps if you sort of use partials. Number 9, can you build your side delts of your shoulders with only overhead press? Get horrible pain of one shoulder when doing side raises and only when doing them. So first of all, avoid pain. It's never worth doing a movement if it's good and you get pain, just throw it away. But maybe not necessarily throw it away right away. Maybe you can tweak your technique. Maybe you're too much internally rotated, and the lateral raise is a very, very good exercise for the side delt. Excuse me. Now, can you build side delts with overhead press? Yes, absolutely. Can you grow maximal side delts using overhead press? I would say probably not. You're going to want some kind of isolation work, just because most front delt pushing exercises are not going to work that much side delt. Yes, they are active, but it might not be optimal for growth. Number 10, how to know if you're actually gaining muscle or not just getting stronger. And he put like 70 pounds on his lat pull downs, more than doubled them. And he also made other progress in other lifts. Now, yes, you can gain strength without gaining size, and you can gain size without gaining strength. However, they're going to be pretty correlated. Typically, your body will increase strength without size first, just because it's sort of cheaper from the body's point of view to increase the central nervous system efficiency rather than actually building muscle tissue. So I would say just keep going. If you can't see muscle growth, it might still be happening. If you're not gaining body weight, it still might be happening, but it's less likely. So I would go by the tape measure, I would go by the mirror, I would go by your strength levels, because eventually those are going to correlate pretty directly with muscle size. And I would trust the process. You know, it takes more than just a few months to build a significant amount of muscle. Some people just build it more easily, other people build strength more easily. So it really just depends on the person. Number 11, do you like video games and what kinds? I used to be really into like Dungeons and Dragons RPG games, like Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, that kind of thing. And actually I got recently back into it a little bit. Fucking showed that dragon, what's up, bro? Can't even handle these games. I used to play it way too much, like 12, 14 hours a day, just like completely addicted. And I've reintroduced it, and I can actually, maybe it's because I'm more mature, maybe I've gained some hashtag wisdom or something, but I'm able to keep it to like, 30 minutes a day or an hour a day, and it's a little bit more manageable than it was before. Second part of the question, which doesn't relate at all. Also, what do you think about all the misinformation about vegans, our nutrition, and muscle building? Yeah, you can gain muscle as a vegan, you can gain muscle as a vegetarian. It might take a little bit more work with like the macros and getting enough protein and quality sources. One thing to keep in mind is, I've seen this quite a bit, this might not be a very popular thing to say, is I see people who claim to be vegan, but then they're also on steroids, which changes everything. And so they play to the vegan side. They say like, oh, look how big I can build my muscles. Look how great of a physique I can get as a vegan. But then they're on steroids, which changes everything. And, that's just a whole nother level of fake natty, because they're selling a lie. They're saying, oh, it's vegan. I'm strong and I have a great body because I'm vegan. But it's not that they're vegan. It's the steroids. The next one, number 12, how do I balance lifting and playing a sport? I play tennis in college and can play around 5 to 6 times per week for 2-hour sessions, which is quite a bit. I burn a lot of calories. How can I make sure that I'm eating enough or eating too much? My goal is to build muscle. How should I plan my week? So as for how you should plan your week, that would be a custom plan. I don't know enough information about you, about your situation. My questionnaire is 40 questions, so there's just no way that I can help you just from a 4-line question. So if you're interested in a custom plan, feel free to email me. That goes for everyone as well. They are very affordable and very excellent as well. How to make sure I'm eating enough or eating too much? Go by the scale. You have to make sure you're eating back the calories and getting enough food. Otherwise, you just won't gain weight and you won't gain muscle either. So yeah, go by the scale and then go by your hunger as well. Yeah, make sure, I would say most people should gain 1 to 2 pounds per month, maybe 3 pounds for beginners. And it's mostly about the calories, but also keep in mind that it's not entirely about the calories. There are some endocrinological effects from doing a lot of cardio, high cortisol, lower mTOR, higher AMPK. That's a lot of letters, I'm sorry. But, those can affect muscle building irregardless of your caloric intake. Number 14, is cardio at aerobic threshold better for fat loss? So again, this sort of relates to what I just said. Aerobic threshold is like a hard, sustained effort. You're not, going so hard that you burn out or you redline or you're producing lactic acid. But it is not just an easy jog. It is a hard, sustained, consistent effort. This is good for fat loss. It's a good way to do a ton of work. However, I think for body composition, this is not great. Again, for the reasons I mentioned before, this can inhibit muscle growth, it can raise cortisol, and it can cause worsened body composition. So typically speaking, when it comes to cardio, I recommend either high intensity interval training, a small amount, just hit it hard and then go home, or low intensity, so walking, which can actually reduce your cortisol level, and avoid that middle intensity steady state. Give it a miss. I talk about this in my book. This middle ground, it does burn calories, but it doesn't seem to be great for body composition. All right, number 15. Nowadays, I'm training more high rep calisthenics, Iron Wolf style. Please check out his channel if you haven't yet. I have. He is very, very good. But I want to go through short phases where I train for strength, most specifically squat, bench, deadlift. What would be the optimal way to do this? Do I just do one lift a day, push, pull legs, upper, lower? So the exact split is going to vary based on you. Again, I can't give you that kind of information without knowing a lot more information about your schedule and about how fast you recover, etc. I would say stick to lower reps. You're already doing plenty of volume. And I would say bench, you don't have to do that much, especially if you're doing dips or a lot of push-ups, just enough to get that neurological drive going. Squat and deadlift are a little bit of a different story because most calisthenics aren't really overloading the lower body all that much. So I would say focus on squat and deadlift. Deadlift, you don't have to deadlift all that often. Oh my God, my nose itches. Oh, that feels good. So focus on squat and deadlift, again, lower reps, and I would say squatting twice per week, deadlifting once per week is going to be sufficient, especially if you're doing a lot of calisthenics stuff on top of that. All right, number 16, sort of similar. Can bodyweight exercises build muscle? Can endurance training using bodyweight exercises build muscle? Can I build muscle using bodyweight only when I can only do 10 to 15 push-ups, 2 pull-ups, and 25 to 30 air squats? So I would say you don't need weights at all. You know, until you can do 40, 50 push-ups in a row, you really have no business bench pressing. I mean, you can if you want, but bodyweight exercises are such low-hanging fruit that you're better off just focusing on those. I would say they are easier on the body, typically speaking, and they are a good base, a good platform to jump into weight training later. So don't waste your money on a gym membership when you are already not at a fairly, minimal level of strength. Just do that, and you're going to get better results for free. Hi, Geoffrey. Can digestive enzymes in any way help natural lifters absorb larger amounts of protein and thus build more muscle? I watched a video by Ben Pakulski, I know him, where he said that the digestive part of the story, digestive stress, enzymes, probiotics, is much more important than the macronutrients. Because the question is which of useful substances from the body, or from the food, our body can process at all. So I'm going to call BS on that. If you're an enhanced lifter and you're eating like 500 grams of protein per day and like 8,000 calories, yeah, it's more important because you just have more to digest and absorb and break down and process. But if you're a natural lifter on like 3,000 calories per day, maybe 150 to 200 grams of protein, I'm going to say absolutely not, unless you have a digestive issue, in which case that is a specific concern. This is not an accusation, but often I see this as a way to sell products, a way to sell probiotics, prebiotics, any kind of biotics, because they say, well, you need to absorb your food better, but the limiting factor is not protein in most cases for natural bodybuilders. It's just not. So yeah, I'm going to say I don't agree. I'm not saying he's like a charlatan or anything. I think he does put out good content, but for natural lifters, that is almost never the limiting factor. You digest and absorb almost 100% of your food without any assistance at all. Our body is very good at this because if it wasn't, we'd be dead. Number 19, can muscle be built in a strength plateau? For example, a bench press stuck at 13 reps for 100 pounds for 2 months. Will that lift be building any muscle? Yes, but it won't be as good as if you were progressing. There are other ways to progress. You can do more volume. You can do, you're at the same number of reps, so maybe not. You can feel the muscle more. If you go from like fucking slamming that 100 pounds around and, all of a sudden now you're like fucking squeezing the chest every single rep, I think you can get more out of it. It's my Greg Doucette moment. But I would say, typically speaking, there's no reason to have a strength plateau for 2 months. It's probably a sign something is wrong, especially if it's a 100-pound bench press for 2 months. I would say check your programming, check your sleep, check your diet, check something, because that is a huge red flag. If you have a coach, they should be on that. I think, sometimes you don't gain size, but if you're not gaining strength at all from that kind of level, something is probably wrong. Next question, which is from the same guy as just then. I love to train hard and care only about size. I train to failure on all my working sets, and they are 10 to 15 reps. If I only care about size, is it necessary to include lower rep sets of 5 to 8, or is this only whenever I experience a plateau in strength on a certain lift? Well, if you have plateaued for 2 months, I would say, yeah, you should have switched up your program already. If you plateau for a week, not a big deal. 2 weeks, it happens. But when you get into that 3 to 4 week and you're not, moving any more weight, especially as a beginner, something is probably wrong. So I would say, yeah, including lower reps can definitely help. 5 to 8 reps isn't even all that low. That is still definitely within the realm of building a good amount of size. So I say go for it. Number 21, happy to see your channel grow, man. Thank you very much. I put a ton of work into these videos, clearly. Only questions I have is how many coaching spots you still have, and if you could maybe advertise your coaching in your Q&A or somewhere else, as long as you have room for more people, of course. So yeah, I do have some spots open. Originally, I was going to keep it only a few, but then they filled up really fast, and I had to raise the price, and I'll probably have to raise the price again. But yes, I'm taking on more long-term clients. I'm very busy, but I still have time for long-term clients. So let me know, drop me an email or Instagram DM if you are interested. I don't really advertise or market or brand or sales or design or any of that shit. I'm more focused on just helping people and on content. And so honestly, I would rather have less on the sales side, the advertisement side, than be really pushy and charge a lot. So, that's just the decision I've made with my channel. And thank you for answering that question, because I'm bad at marketing, so that gives me an opportunity to mention it. So thank you. Number 22, got diagnosed with severe bronchitis and lost 7 kilos, mostly muscle, in a month. It probably wasn't mostly muscle, but could be some muscle. Feeling okay except for nagging cough and shortness of breath. Plan on joining a gym again in January 2021. Any tips? Maybe stick to lower reps. Don't overexert yourself. Maybe get a green light from a doctor first. Definitely not my area of expertise. Respiratory issues can really take a long time to get over. And so don't be too aggressive too soon, especially with high rep squats, deadlifts, that kind of stuff, which can really impair your recovery, not just from training, but from this sickness as well. Do you recommend upper lower split 6 times per week? I'm from Brazil, and due to the pandemic, I'm only allowed to stay in the gym 1 hour per day. Yeah, it's fine, especially if there's only 1 hour per day. Hitting lower body 3 times per week is pretty rough sometimes. So I did a full video on upper lower split. I will link it in a card or in the description. And yeah, it can work, but again, it's tough, especially on the lower body side of things. I would split it up where your lower bodies are 1 quad focused, 1 hamstring focused, 1 glute focused. That's going to be a better way to do it, just because most of those movements have some overlap, but you're going to want to focus on one area, because if you have 3 quad days a week, that's going to be rough, so it really just depends on the details, but yes, it can work. Number 24, I've been training for 3 years now. I don't get very sore when working out. After I've reached failure, I take a rest and start the exercise again. This makes me not sure when I should stop. I work out with free weight dumbbells at home, so going very heavy is not an option. If I am doing a lot of volume, how do I know when to stop? So you have to learn how to auto-regulate. I would say if you're not getting sore, it's not always an issue, but if you're never sore, ever at all, you're probably not training sufficiently hard enough or with sufficient volume. If you can't overload, that's going to be a big issue, so you might want to do higher volume, but at the same time, volume can only go so high before you sort of hit a brick wall, and you need to add intensity, add weight to the bar. So I would say find a way to do that. It could be bodyweight exercises, it could be more difficult variations, but you need to be able to do more challenging variations in some way, otherwise it's extremely hard to progress over the long term, as you found. Number 25, how'd you end up in China? So funny story, I actually got really drunk 9.5 years ago at a bar. And then, when I woke up, I was actually in China. And I've just sort of been hanging out here ever since. All right, the next question, number 26. I did this challenge from a nutrition shop as a motivation to get rid of fat and build muscle. Some people, they lost 14 pounds of fat and gained 10 pounds of muscle in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks. The measurements are based off of a body composition scan. Why am I not surprised? I understand they are inaccurate. But I am curious just how the machine might even think that was possible, and I was curious if you have an explanation. So they're mostly based on electrical impedance, and due to body weight swings, you might gain 3 pounds of muscle and lose 3 pounds of fat in a night. Like you wake up, you get a measurement, and then by the end of the day, the measurement's totally different. And then you wake up the next morning, it's totally different again. And so, if someone lost 14 pounds of fat and gained 10 pounds of muscle, it very easily could have been losing 6 pounds of fat and gaining 2 pounds of muscle. That's probably what actually happened. And so I don't think these are intentionally inaccurate, but they are certainly not actually accurate. And I see this all the time. People make these crazy claims using these machines, and they are just false. And sometimes people, they can't be convinced that these machines are BS. I've had conversations online where someone sent me results similar to this, and I was like, yeah, you didn't gain 10 pounds of muscle in 3 weeks. And they're just like, but the machine said it, so it's obviously true. And they just have this crazy belief in these machines when they're clearly just against the laws of physiology. And, these should be probably taken off the market. That's how bullshit they are. All right, number 27. Nice work, man. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Being that I come from an endurance background, triathlon, and almost 50 years old when I started to lift, I don't want to just be fragile. No, do you have any recommendations for older beginners, what they should do? I would say technique is going to be a main focus, not chasing weight too much. Often they need more recovery time, so something like full body every day might not work that well. It can work for some people, but just keep in mind that for most older people, lifting time is going to be a recovery time. Am I losing my shit? Recovery time is going to take longer, and therefore you might not want to do a super high frequency type of program. Nailed it. I need more coffee. It's nice because it doesn't get stuck in my mustache anymore. The perks of being unbearded. Number 28, how to fix patellar tendonitis. Greg Nuckols actually did a very good article on this, I think, over at strongerbyscience.com. I almost said Strength Theory, his old school website. But yeah, basically stay below the threshold of injury. Don't go out and max on front squats or anything. So keep it light, stay active, do as much as you can to get blood flow into that area as possible. Don't just sit in bed or sit at a desk, because that's not really going to get blood flow into the tendon, which is going to be absolutely vital for recovery. Number 29, good job, man. That is not a question. So I'm going to be blocking your account immediately. Good sir. Number 30, could you substitute heavy dumbbell pressing in place of flat barbell bench pressing, as the latter might be causing a shoulder injury? Well, you can, yeah, but it's not really a perfect substitute. When you're substituting exercises, I would say keep it within the same movement pattern. So a squat does not replace a deadlift. A deadlift is a hinge, a squat is it's a squat. But, same for a push and a press, or a pull and a row. They might have similar muscle groups, but I would say they're not really a good substitute. I would say dumbbell bench press is fine. Reverse grip bench press maybe. Improve your technique at flat barbell bench press. That's going to be a better way than just completely avoiding that plane of movement. All right, the next one. What would be the most effective PPL routine for someone getting back into lifting whilst, nice use of whilst, bulking? Thanks, mate. Have a great day. You too. This would probably be a custom plan, though. Eventually, I'll have a PPL ultimate guide to the push-pull leg split up on the channel. But I would say ideally a custom plan would be best, as I can understand a lot more information about you. Number 32, tips to increase incline bench press. Yes, that took me a few times to say. I would say do more incline bench pressing. That's going to help. This can actually help to have a spotter. It's just because if you fail a flat bench press, you can tip the plates to the side, you can roll it off of you. But with an incline bench press, if you fail, like you're kind of screwed. I guess you can maybe like roll it down you, but then it's like rolling straight to the Johnson. So I would say a spotter can help a lot on incline, just to give you a little bit of a bump and maybe help you get an extra rep or two. They shouldn't be rowing the weight. It's just mostly for the mental side of things to help you push closer to failure. Also, maybe play around with your grip width. That can also help, as well as accessory movements for the chest and then for the triceps as well. Number 33, what is the best advice for guys like myself with relatively longer arms struggling to gain arm size? It seems like guys with longer arms seem to have it harder to grow their guns. Actually, they have it easier in terms of size, but in terms of the visual appearance, it's just a lot more real estate to fill in. So honestly, there's no big difference in training. Just do sufficient volume on the compound movements and then add in some isolation work as well. I wouldn't say there is a requirement for special exercise selection in this case. Basically just be consistent and realize as a taller guy, if you're like 6'2" and up, it's probably going to take longer to fill in your frame, your legs, your arms, probably just about everything. But once you fill that in, you'll probably look more impressive, especially when you're standing next to the average sized person. So it just requires a lot more patience, a lot more dedication to your nutrition. Make sure you're eating enough. Taller people often have faster metabolisms, so it requires more consistency with getting in food. All right, Number 34, what is your favorite fruit and can you find it in China? I'm not a big fruit guy, but I really like 火龙果. I don't know the English. Maybe I'll find out and put it on the screen. Dragon fruit? Long. It's good. I'll put a picture as well on the screen. It's has like a very silky smooth texture. It's like white and black, and it tastes not overly sweet, but it has a very distinct taste. But again, I don't really have it more than a few times per year, just because I'm not really that into fruit. Number 35, I am 5 foot 8 inches, 138 pounds, between 12 and 13% body fat. It's a very exact number. Trying to bulk, can I substitute some of my carbs with fats? It's difficult to consume any more calories from carbs. I would say yes. Past a certain threshold, carbs and fats, in my view, are basically interchangeable. I know dietitians are probably going to get pissed off from me saying that, but basically once you're at a certain level, your body just treats it as energy. Carbs might have more insulin release and therefore be more anabolic, but then fat also gives you maybe a testosterone boost. So honestly, focus on protein, focus on calories, and don't worry too much about fats or carbs. I'd say that's the best and most simplistic way to go about things. All right, the next one, are percentage-based programs still useful if you have a poor reps to 1 rep max translation? For example, if you can do 20 reps with 80% of your 1 rep max, or only 2 reps with 90% of a 1 rep max. So I would say yes, but know yourself. For example, I know that when I'm doing sumo deadlifts, I can do a lot of work with a slightly lighter weight. For example, my max is 205 kilos, but I've done 180 kilos for 10 reps. If I plug that into a 1 rep max calculator, it gives me like a 240 kilo max, which I don't even sniff. It's like 30 or 40 kilos over my max. And so I can't really use percentage-based training, because if I do 70 or 80%, any formula or program is going to give me something that's too easy. And then when it gets to 85, 90, 95%, that becomes much more difficult. So, for me, on most lifts, I'm better at reps. And so I have to take that into account when I am programming. Same thing if you're super fast twitch, you might not be able to do as many reps as predicted, and you have to take that into account. Plus, every exercise is going to be different. For example, the sumo deadlift, it is mechanically difficult off the floor, and therefore if you can get it moving and in a good position, the weight flies up, but if you don't get it moving, it just doesn't move and you don't complete the lift. And so every lift mechanically is going to be slightly different. That's just how the cookie crumbles. Next one, is a calorie just a calorie? I'll probably do a full video on this, but a calorie is just a unit of measurement. It's a unit of measurement we get fucking emotional about. But that's like asking, is a gram a gram? Yeah, a gram is a gram, but a gram of coke and a gram of diamonds and a gram of dirt are all completely different feelings. Next question, 38, halfway to halfway. What type of program schedule do you recommend to someone who will inevitably miss workouts, fail to hit macros, and not get enough sleep from time to time? I'm a family man, etc., etc. So I would say full body workouts whenever you can make it. If a family thing comes up, if you miss a workout, it's not that big a deal. If you're on like a bro split and it's like your deadlift day or your squat day or your leg day or whatever, if you miss that workout, you're going 2 weeks between that actual day. So I would say try for higher frequency whenever you can. And if you fail, it's not that big a deal. So I would say full body workouts whenever you have the time is going to be the best way to go about things. And then titrate your volume based on how you feel. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you feel really beaten up, you're just dragging, don't do a high volume phase because it's just going to destroy you and it's going to be counterproductive. But if you're feeling good, throw in a little bit more volume. You have to auto-regulate in these situations, otherwise it's just not going to be optimal. What is your opinion on Pendlay rows? Do you think it would help build back mass? I think they're okay. I think I include them in my book. I don't recall. I should check that. Okay, so I do include them in my book. I think they're okay. They're more for the upper back than the lower back, the lats. Well, they do work the lower back, but they're not going to work the lats because you're pulling high. So it's going to be good for rear delts. It's going to be good for traps, but it really does limit the weight that you can use because you're in this bent over position. So it's more about your posture, your stability of your lower back, your core involvement, than the actual overloading of the upper back. So I would say try them out. You might like them, but for me personally, it's a no dog. Number 40, how do you become more flexible? I have been working on my flexibility for a couple of years, but it's not really helping. I am extremely rigid, which makes me prone to injuries. Mind you that I stretch all the time, but I just can't get flexible, especially in my hips. I can't even sit cross-legged. It would be great if you can help me out. Okay, so the first thing that jumps out at me is that if you're doing something for a few years and it's not helping, be more proactive with assessing and examining what is actually helping or not doing anything. If it's not helping, don't do it. Do something else. Clearly stretching a lot isn't really helping your flexibility or your mobility. I find that loaded stretching, aka lifting, is going to be the best way. So Bulgarian split squats where you're going deep and getting a stretch on the glute is going to be a good way. Maybe doing some kind of glute medius stretch where it is under load can be a good way to do things. But for most people, light stretching isn't going to do that much. And clearly, what you've been doing hasn't really been working. Number 41, thoughts on calisthenics. I mean, you see these girls on social media and they're just shaking their asses and they're pretending to working out. And thoughts on calisthenics. Yeah, they're fine. Number 42, is it okay if the knees go beyond the toes when squatting? A lot of gym trainers advise against it. Well, a lot of gym trainers don't know shit, okay? It's individual. Some people can have their knees go forward and it's completely fine. If you want to stay upright doing an Olympic lifting type of squat, the knees will go forward. It's just sort of part of how the body works. If you don't want the knees to go forward at all, that is called a good morning. It's not a squat, it's a good morning. So the knees, to a certain extent, will go forward unless you're doing a very sort of powerlifting, low bar type of squat. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, especially if your knees feel fine. If your knees are getting pain, it is probably more likely because you're getting side-to-side movement. Again, as I said before, the knees are hinge joints. They feel fine hinging. Like, you can stress the finger like this, but if you stretch the finger like this, it is very quickly going to become very unhappy. The knee is the same. Typically speaking, hinging, it is going to be okay for most people. But again, play it by ear. It is fairly individual. All right, the next one, How do you progress on neck training, and which exercises do you do for it? I'm currently stuck on a 45-pound plate for 30 plus reps and want to get past this plateau. I would go heavier. 30 plus reps is okay for neck training, but going down to 15 to 20 and using just throw a 10 on there or something, that can help you get past a plateau. Often I see plateaus when people try to do only high reps and they're just maybe not afraid, but they just don't do those lower reps that can have benefit. I think the neck can generally benefit from higher reps, but just occasionally throwing in a harder set of 15 to 20 or 10 to 15 can be beneficial. I typically do a forward flexion, but only a few times a month, if that. It's not a big priority in my training. Maybe I could use some neck work, but it's not a look that I'm going for. All right, the next one, wrist strengthening exercises for wrist pain. I would say maybe not a great idea, actually. I would say strengthen your biceps, strengthen your rotator cuff. Sometimes if you don't have adequate shoulder mobility, it'll take the mobility from your wrist. For example, if you're doing chin-ups and you don't have sufficient rotation externally, then your body will put stress on the wrist. It's not a question of strengthening the wrist. You're not getting wrist pain because you have weak wrists. You're getting wrist pain because the wrist is moving in an unnatural way. You can do wrist curls, you can do other wrist curls, you can do all kinds of stuff like this, but at the end of the day, if you're getting pain, it's not because that area is weak in most cases. So I would say curls, shoulder work, making sure your technique is on point is going to be much better for preventing injuries and pain. All right, the next one, kind of a long one. Congrats on 10K, well deserved. Thank you very much. I agree. And what's your take on working out with chronic, say, low back pain or sciatica, which doesn't seem to go away anytime soon? Probably years. Should one try to circumnavigate with alternative exercises and risk exacerbating the condition, or actively rest without challenging resistance to training till it subsides completely? Sometimes it's hard to gauge if the exercises are causing pain or not. Pain is weird. It is very weird. So it's sort of hard to give a concrete answer. Try to track what causes what. I know it can be difficult, but if you notice it always flares up after doing low bar back squats, then just avoid those. No exercise is worth causing pain. If you're getting pain, you are probably causing damage. Not always, but often. So just try to track in a logbook and then track your pain alongside it and try to take note of what helps, what hurts, and what has no effect, and then just stay away from what hurts. Even if they are good exercises, it's not worth getting injured over, and then just try to stay as active as you can. Walking helps. The McGill Big 3 can help as well. And basically just patience. Lower back issues can take a really long time to get better. So basically just don't be too aggressive in trying to make a comeback. All right, the next question, what percentage of body weight to lose per week on a caloric deficit is safe for 40% to 30%, and then 30% to 20%, and then 20% to 15%? So the fatter you are, basically, the higher your body fat percentage, I guess we can't say fat anymore, hashtag SJW. Why are they all warriors? Why can't there be social justice mages and clerics and thieves? They matter as well. Ugh. Shouldn't they all be social justice paladins? Doesn't that make more sense than warrior? Who the fuck thinks about these things before naming words? All right, anyway, so yes, the larger you are, the faster you can lose. I would say 1% per week is a good target. But perhaps up to 2%. Generally speaking, the first week of a diet, you're going to lose 2, 3, 4 kilos. I've had clients lose 5, 6, 7 kilos the first week. That's not all fat. Most of it is water, bloat, less food in the system. But generally speaking, yeah, the bigger you are, the faster you can lose. And then as you get closer to 10% and under 10%, you just have less fat to physically release and then use, and so of course things are going to slow down pretty dramatically. And then going from 6% to 5% and 5% to 4%, you're not going to go from 5% to 4% in a week, just because less tissue, you have less fat to actually release and use, and therefore it just takes longer. Number 47, hi Geoffrey, this is my second question. Well, all right, next one. No, I'm just kidding. Do you have any advice on how people who have a day job and want heavy duty training to manage to balance everything in terms of energy? He says that he has energy in the morning when he works out, but not in the evening after work. Yeah, mental energy is going to be just as important as physical energy. I would say make sure you're getting enough food throughout the day. I wouldn't use caffeine at night to try to like get up for a workout because it's probably going to impact sleep, whether you feel it or not. But I would say just train in the morning. If you have more energy and you have a better performance in the morning, that is going to be what is better for progression. So I would say most people feel better in the afternoon, but if you can't work out in the afternoon and you feel just mentally thrashed by the evening, which I totally understand, then just try to work out in the morning whenever you can. That's just going to be what is going to be the best way to get the best results. 48, how many sets do you do for side delts per week? Also, are 3 sets of face pulls per week enough for the rear delts? I'll answer the second one first, and the answer is no. You probably need more volume for rear delts. They are in a position that is not very exposed to mechanical tension. They don't get sore very often for most people, and therefore, basically, just if you want to get big rear delts, just fucking attack them. Just 3 sets of face pulls isn't going to be enough. Throw in rear delt raises, maybe some upright rows, and just a bunch of normal rows, and they should be fine. You're not going to overtrain your side delts or your rear delts. They're just tiny little chunks of tissue that are very resistant to trauma. And then how many sets do I do for side delts per week? It depends, anywhere from 5 to 15. My training is really messed up at the moment. Just because sometimes I have to film stuff in the gym, and so I'll have like how I built my traps video, and it'll be like a trap day in the gym. So it's sort of my training is sort of like all up in the air at the moment. But I would say anywhere from 5 to 15. I tend to do my lateral raises well beyond failure, like every single set. Every single set is beyond failure, just because honestly, a set to failure where you fail to move the dumbbells up to here, for me, that's like when the set begins, and I start, doing partials or cheating a little bit, and that's just, what I find builds the side delts optimally. A decent amount of volume, going past failure, a shitload of effort, and just really attacking them. They're very resilient, very resistant to stress and trauma, and therefore, I think a set per week on side delts or anything, or even 3 sets, is probably not enough. Number 49, lower neck pain where the cervical and thoracic spine meet, developed after a heavy bench press session. Is this common, and why does this happen? How to prevent it? Also, there's no arm shoulder tingling that comes from a disc issue. Yeah, so you might have been in like a really arched position and just been putting all of your weight on that area. I typically don't bench press with a huge arch, but if you were, that could be it. It could also be if you're really tucking your chin down. That can put stress on that area because you're very, flex forward in that area. It could also be if you use a new bench. Some benches are just shitty. If they're narrower, you're putting more stress on the spine because it doesn't spread the load as much. So it really just depends. It's hard to say. It might not even be a technique issue. Sometimes I've had sessions where I just got a random pain once, and then I didn't change anything, and I just never got that pain again, and I forgot about it, and it just never happened again. So sometimes when you're training hard, you just get weird pains, and you can't even explain them. They just happen, and then they happen once, and they never happen again, and it's not an issue. So it could be that. Obviously, there's going to be some explanation, but I would say if it's not happening on a regular basis, maybe not worth worrying about, especially as you don't think it's a disc issue. All right, number 50, is it necessary to do medial tricep head isolation work? Oh no, that's the lateral head. No. Okay, I don't think you can even isolate that. So it's not possible, so no, you can't. The tricep, you can emphasize certain areas, but isolation, no. That's like saying, doing a Romanian deadlift is isolating the hamstrings. It's not. There's a whole bunch of other stuff working. You can't isolate a head of the biceps or a head of the quad or a head of the hamstring or anything. That's just not how the body works. It contracts the muscles together. They are innervated together. You can emphasize part with certain movements, but I would say it's not really worth worrying about. My phone is dying. All right, number 51, if you finish a set using rest pause, would you consider that as progress and up the reps or weight? Or would you try again with the same reps and weight without rest pausing? So I would say it depends on the lift. In something like a bench press, I would say you're free to go up in weight because you can't really pause that much in a bench press because there's still tension on the muscle, so it's not really helping that much. On something like a deadlift, if you do a set of 20 reps and it takes you 10 minutes, is that really one set? It's basically just a bunch of clusters or mini sets at that point. So I would say it depends how much you're resting. If you do 10 reps in 30 seconds, okay, that's like a legit normal set. But if it takes you 2 minutes, you might just want to set a goal for like a minute 40 or a minute 30 for the next time. That is a good way to progress, just to tighten up the reps rather than like upping the weight and then doing another 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute ridiculous set. So I would say it depends on the situation, on the exercise, and your goals as well. As for transitioning from powerlifting to Olympic weightlifting, so neither of those are my forte at all, but I will try my best to help. I would say start doing overhead work. It could be just strict press. It could be transitioning to push press after that, and then transitioning to a jerk, a split jerk or a power jerk, or maybe a squat jerk, but probably not for most people. You have to get used to putting weight overhead. Powerlifting does not do that, and therefore, you might be weak with overhead work, and you need to strengthen your rotator cuff, your traps, just that entire shoulder girdle to make sure you don't get injured when putting stuff overhead. The second thing would be you need to be able to use the hips explosively. You need to learn how to do explosive triple extension. In a deadlift, that's a good base for Olympic weightlifting. And if you can deadlift a shitload of weight, that is definitely going to help. But you need to learn how to explode at the knees, the hips, the ankles, which isn't really happening in a deadlift in the same way. So I would say high pulls, Chinese pulls, hang pulls, high pulls, low pulls, that kind of thing, where it's not a clean. So you don't have to catch the weight, which is very technical and difficult and challenging and can be dangerous if you mess it up. But you're still working triple extension. So I would combine those in your transition, and then you can do a bunch of technique work with like just the bar or a broomstick to practice that front rack, to practice catching the weight, and then combined with the overhead work, progressing slowly, also working on your mobility, which is going to be a big deficit for many powerlifters. The squat doesn't require a lot of mobility for powerlifting. Deadlift doesn't require much at all. Bench pressing probably actually hurts your mobility. A lot of powerlifters who transition to weightlifting, they stop bench pressing. The tight pecs and being in an internally rotated position is actually going to hurt their overhead work. So, if your pecs are really tight and you can't get back, well, you might want to stop devoting a lot of work to bench pressing because it's going to be counterproductive for your new goals. Apart from that, basically just being patient, starting with lighter weights and working on technique. The Olympic lifts are super technical, and therefore they just have a longer learning curve than bending over and picking something up or squatting down or bench pressing something. They have an explosive component. They have a precision component that powerlifting just doesn't have in the same order of magnitude. All right, the next question. Congrats, well deserved. Thank you very much. My question, I have to work out at home. For legs, I have to do single leg exercises due to the lack of heavy weights, but the training type doubles because you're doing pistol squats or single leg work or whatever. So 4 sets is actually 8 sets. Yep, twice the effort as well, basically. Any tips for a more time-efficient home leg workout? I keep thinking about reducing the number of sets, but I feel like that is against progressive overload. So find a way to make the exercises more challenging. Find a way to progressively overload. It's going to be really tough for lower body when you're not using heavy weights. Paul Anderson dug out his backyard and was lifting concrete and shit like that. I'm not saying you should necessarily do that, but be creative. If you have a wife, if you're married, lift your wife, that kind of thing. Don't drop her. That is not good. Trust me. Basically just, I don't have a great answer for this one. I wish I did, but you might just have to devote more time to it. When I was in quarantine, I was doing 10 sets, no, 6 sets of 100 reps of walking lunges. And sometimes I was doing 300 or 400 reps at a time in a single set. And yeah, it took a long time. Yeah, it sucked, but it maintained a decent amount of leg muscle mass even during the 3-month hiatus from the gym. So it might be tough, but you might just have to devote more time to working out because you can't truly progressively overload in a heavy way. The next question is an interesting one. Can you handwrite Mandarin/Chinese? Not sure about the correct term. I guess Mandarin would be the correct term. If not, does it cause issues in your day-to-day life? So the way Mandarin is structured as a language is different from most other languages. Most languages have an alphabet. They use those letters to make words, and those words have meaning. Chinese uses strokes or radicals to make characters which have meaning. It uses those characters put together to make words, and those words have meaning. For example, and I'll put this on the screen, the character Bing stands for ice. The character Xiang stands for box. Put them together, ice box, and you get refrigerator. Okay, so it's a very logical language. However, when most people are inputting Mandarin into their phone, into their computer when they're typing, they use pinyin. So they type the letters that actually represent the characters, then they select on the screen which character they want. So if I wanted to write ice box or refrigerator, I would type B-I-N-G, and then up on the there would be a list of different characters to choose from. I would choose the character I wanted. I didn't actually have to write it. I just had to recognize it. And recognizing a character is much easier than having to write it. Then I would type X-I-A-N-G. I would select the xiang that I wanted. There would be dozens, if not hundreds of characters that I could select, but I read the right one, I select the right one, which inputs it into wherever I wanted to be writing. So I actually don't write by hand ever. I haven't written in like a year or 2 years or maybe even longer because I never have to write. I just type on my phone, I type on my computer, etc. And I don't actually have to physically write the character out. And even a lot of Chinese people forget how to physically write characters. Not their name, not the most common characters, but if someone else has a name, they might not be able to write their friend's name because the character is unusual and they don't know how to physically write it. They could type it and then recognize it and select it, but in terms of actually reproducing the actual strokes, they couldn't do it. Back when I was a teacher, I remember one time kids were signing up for an activity and they were writing their own names, and they would try to write their group members' names, and they would like try to write, and they'd be like, there's actually a saying, 提笔忘字, which is like lift the pen, forget the character, where you could read it, you just can't write it because you can't start and you can't remember exactly how to draw the character, how to write the character. And so they would actually have to give the notepad to their friend so that they could write their own name, which I thought was hilarious and everyone else thought was hilarious, but it's just how the language is set up. It's more complex in that regard. So I hope that helped. Not really fitness related, but maybe interesting. Next one, congrats on your 10K subs. Thank you very much. I guess by now you'll be regretting asking us to post the questions. Nah, it's cool. Here goes my question. After having a cheat day, what do you suggest to do the next or previous day? Previous day, eat normally. Next day, same thing. Some people find that after a cheat day, they're not hungry at all. I guess it's okay to eat less food in that situation. Try to get protein in. It's not like the protein from the previous day is still being digested, so you should still try to get in some protein. Otherwise, I do think you are missing out on some gains. Other people, they find that they get hungrier the day after a cheat meal, which seems counterintuitive. It's like, oh, I just put a bunch of energy in the system. Why do they want more energy? I think this is due to insulin and due to insulin resistance that happens after carb overfeeding. Essentially, your body is thinking, well, we got a shitload of carbs yesterday, and now we're getting none, so we need those carbs. And it's going to be different for every person, but I would say more or less, just try to eat normally. Don't try to like needlessly restrict just because you had a cheat meal the previous day. Honestly, I'm not a fan of labeling them as cheat meals just because people start to feel guilty. Your diet, your life, your rules. If you make the rules, how can you cheat? Doesn't make any sense. Therefore, I almost never use the word cheat meals ever because I think it's a very negative and stupid term. All right, the next one, number 56. Is cardio still necessary if you're only striving to get bigger, not trying to be shredded and have low body fat percentage? So it depends. It's up to you. I almost never do cardio. I eat whatever I want. I train my ass off in the gym, but I don't ever do formal cardio. The closest I get to cardio is walking, but I don't actually run most of the time. The last time I ran a single step was like 3 months ago. The last time before that was probably 7 months before that. So I just don't run very often. I don't do any formal cardio in the gym. And I think cardio is something that is not 100% necessary. If you're active, if you are lifting weights, especially higher rep leg work, that is enough to condition the body and enough to be healthy, in my opinion, for most people. Especially if you are in a sort of weight gaining phase, I don't think it's as necessary. Sure, you can do a little bit of it. I think it can help. But for me, I have an endurance background, so I already have that base built. I could run a 5.5 minute mile tomorrow, or today, or whenever, despite being 90 kilos, just because I have that background and I'm still in good condition. So some people might disagree with that, but certainly I could easily run a 6-minute mile any day of the year without actually running or doing any official cardio. So I would say not as necessary as some people think. All right, the next one, I recently started using a lacrosse ball in the quad area above the knee, and it's been helping to loosen up tightness I felt in the area when performing any knee flexion and extension, just flexion. What are your thoughts on lacrosse ball therapy on tight, painful knots to loosen them? So I think there is some research. I'm not going to look it up. If you feel it's helping, it's helping. Okay, so use your personal experience. If you do it and it's like clearly helping, feel free to use it. Even if it's a placebo effect, it's still an effect. So don't let my opinion ruin your placebo effect. This is very individual. I don't really do like this kind of active release therapy or anything like that. But I think it can help. I think in some cases it's sort of overdone, overplayed. But again, if you feel like it's helping, it's probably helping, and keep doing it. Rolling around on a lacrosse ball is cheap, easy, and potentially effective. So I would say keep at it. All right, the next one, I had to stop working out for 1 month due to work and life events. I have lost an unbelievable amount of strength. Deadlift down 25%, squat down about 35%, and so on. Is there any specific strategy to regain the strength quickly? I would say higher frequency is going to be best. Don't do high volume because you just get super sore. But I would say hit your deadlift 1 to maybe even twice per week, and then squat 2 to 3 times per week is going to be best. But again, not super high volume, and it should come back pretty quickly. You probably didn't lose much muscle, if any. It's just stabilizers. It's neurological. You're not used to moving that weight, and that is a lot of strength to lose. But again, it should come back pretty quickly. For reference, that's about how much strength I lost from 3 to 4 months off from the gym. So that's about par for the course. All right, the next one. I do home workouts, and I'm a 16-year-old weighing 54 kilos and 173 centimeters. I started doing 10-kilo dumbbell curls and have this pain in my back. So could you please tell me about perfect form to do it? And is close grip barbell curls beneficial? And sir, could you also please make a plan to work out, please, like on which day, what should be targeted for 5 days per week, please, sir? So I can't write you a full plan just because I'm busy and lazy and I get paid for that. So that's sort of what I do for a living. So I can't really, it's just not fair to actually paying clients. I used to write training plans for free when I first started out, but I don't do that anymore because I've advanced a lot since then. In terms of correct technique, that is also hard to say just because I don't have a video of you doing it. Again, because you're not a client, I'm not saying to send me a video. But I would say make sure you're braced and make sure you're not bending back too much. And for you, 10 kilos might be too heavy. So maybe reduce the weight and focus more on the muscles that are being worked, hopefully only the biceps. Close grip barbell curls, yes, on an easy bar curl. But if it's a straight bar, I would say use a wider grip. So somewhere around here, around here, around here, but very narrow. It's going to place stress on the wrist. So don't really do that. That's probably not a good idea. Next one, number 60. 2 questions. Blocked. Do I need to train abs? I follow a push-pull leg split and do a considerable amount of compound movements. If you want to, yes, it can help a little bit to develop the rectus abdominis, and it can perhaps allow you a better look at a slightly higher body fat percentage. Like you might get abs at 15% rather than 12%, but it's not going to like give you abs like a lot of fitness piece of shit influencers tell you. So don't expect like amazing massive results. That's mostly diet. The second one, how often should I train my grip and forearms, dead hang, towel hold, wrist curls, etc.? I would train them every pull day. If you're on a push-pull leg split, twice per week should be sufficient. Or you can train them on a leg day, just because it's maybe the day after a pull day, and you get almost like a second or a third and fourth dosage in that area. They generally recover like really quickly, and those movements aren't really very stressful on the body, so you can do them pretty often. The next one, sort of a general one, is bulking and cutting worth it for advanced lifters? I would say bulking, probably not. Like for me, I might gain 1 to 2 kilos of muscle per year. I would be thrilled with 2 kilos of muscle per year. That would be beyond my expectations. So for me to gain like 10 kilos in a bulk, well, it's 80% water, fat, bloat, whatever, and maybe, if I'm lucky, 2 kilos of muscle. So it's not really worth being in a like dirty bulk or big surplus or anything like that. As for cutting, if you are cutting to be very lean as a natural and as advanced, that is time spent basically wasted. Yeah, maybe you can gain a little bit of muscle while you are cutting, but realistically, as an advanced lifter, probably not. The best you can hope for is not losing any muscle. So I would say bulk as long and as slowly as possible, and then do a short mini cut, but not to like a super lean level. So basically what I do is I stick between 12 and 18% or so, and I slowly and comfortably bulk up to the high side of that. Then when I feel like a fat piece of garbage, I take a mini cut back down to like 12 or 13%. I don't go leaner unless I'm like, going for a photo shoot or some special occasion or something, just because it's not worth doing that. And then I slowly, again, go into the piece of shit range. And, everyone has their own piece of shit range. Some people might feel completely fine at 22%, but if they go to 25%, they feel like a piece of garbage. And so find out where you are okay mentally. I think a good rule of thumb is that if you are not comfortable taking your shirt off, you're probably too fat. Okay? Just and that's based on wherever you are. Some people don't want to go above 14%. They feel like embarrassed seeing a little bit of flub when they're 14%. And so, it's just up to you what range, what window you want to play in. And if you want to maintain like a model type of look with like fucking chiseled cheekbones and like you don't want like any kind of double chin or anything, well then you're going to need to shift that to a leaner side of things. All right, the next question, what type of resources did you use to learn about the biomechanics of different exercises? Is there a book or source that you would recommend for those who want to learn more about it? Honestly, there's no one book in particular. Obviously, my book is going to be the gold standard, but I mostly used YouTube, internet, Google. Learn how to appraise sources. That is going to be the best and most important thing. That was the chair, not me farting. Okay, just so we're clear on what that noise just was. If you heard it, I heard it. I felt it. Again. But there wasn't... Are you kidding me, chair? All right, so basically, learn how to Google something and appraise what is bullshit, what is okay, and what is great. If you can do that, the world is your oyster. And that might take a few years of consuming content, but once you find, good content and you can recognize it and you can use that to assess other pieces of content, a lot of doors open. Your first year of training, you're probably going to gravitate to like the dudes who take their shirt off and are like pushing products and are very charismatic and are like smiling. If you're a woman, you're probably, the women who have a big butt and are very attractive and have the physique you want and are very charismatic and everything is very polished. But that is no guarantee that they actually know what they're talking about. And in fact, that might be a reverse indicator of what they know they are talking about. So I would say learn how to interpret a Google search result. I think I'll probably do a full video on that because it is a very important topic. And I know I didn't really answer the question, but basically check my Rate of Fitness YouTuber section. My main sources I've basically already covered, just because I think it's important for good creators. Yes, I just call myself a good creator. I'm comfortable doing that, to give credit to other creators. So if I read something by Greg Knuckles, or watch a Nippert video, or a Menno article or something like that, I try to push people to those resources because that is a good thing to do. Often these people don't get good exposure, and so sometimes those ones do because they're already really big, but sometimes smaller sources that are awesome, I try to push people in that direction because they don't naturally get a lot of traffic because they are doing things the right way. All right, the next one, what causes a feeling of a burn in a specific area instead of throughout the muscle? I noticed when I rode my bike, sometimes it was sore or burned near the kneecaps and sometimes in the middle, higher up. So the quads are a very big muscle, and therefore different areas can definitely accumulate lactic acid differently. For example, near the knee, if you're doing like a narrow stance squat or riding a bike, it could cause soreness or a burn in that type of area. Whereas if you're doing hip flexion, it could work a different part of the muscle. So it really just depends. It's not a big deal either way, but just realize you might get sore in different areas, you might get a burn in different areas, and this is because a different part of the area is actually working. And this is most common in bigger muscle groups. In smaller muscle groups, like your rear delts, yeah, there are 3 heads to the rear delts, but most people don't have a good enough connection to feel like each part contract differently or accumulate lactic acid differently. It's like if you have your arm and someone pokes you here or here and then here or here, you might not know. But if someone pokes you here and then here, you can instantly tell the difference because the nerve is actually different. And so I forgot what it's called. Maybe I'll put it on the screen. But basically, how densely innervated an area is, you'll have a greater sensitivity to differences in area. So for example, your hand, if you poke here or here or here or here, you can tell. Even if your eyes are closed, you can tell. But your arm or your leg, if it's this much apart, you might not know for sure. So it's just basically the area being different. The next one, how to avoid lower back pain with compound movements like squats and deadlifts. Congrats for 10K. Thank you very much. I would say bracing, load management, and proper technique. You need all of those. Even if you're braced and your technique is good, if you do just a heaping shitload of volume, you might get like back soreness and maybe even back pain. If you're not braced, even though you're in the right position, you might get back pain. And so you get the idea, like you need all of those in order to prevent issues. And sometimes I see someone, they're in the right position, but I can tell they're not actually bracing that area, or they're bracing but it's in the wrong position. So I would say bracing, technique, and then finally just not doing too much. That is going to be the key. And bracing for the squat and bracing for the deadlift are going to be a little bit different. If you're getting butt wink in the squat, that can also be an issue. Often it is just going too heavy. Just going too heavy with bad technique. Sooner or later, it's going to catch up to you. All right, the next one. How much protein can you digest and utilize in one sitting? And how long do you have to wait before you consume more? So there's a difference between what you can absorb and what you can use. And these two things are very, very different and often confused. How much can you use? I would say 30 to 40 grams. That is going to be what, according to the research, in most people can maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis, aka sweet ass gains. That's the technical term, sweet ass gains, swag. However, in older trainees, they might need more because they develop an anabolic resistance, and 60 grams, 80 grams even per meal might do better. You have to hit that threshold to break through that resistance, and as you get older, that resistance becomes greater and greater. Now, as for how much you can absorb, a lot. Like hundreds of grams per sitting, you can absorb. It might take longer. Your stomach is going to slow the emptying so you can absorb it all, but most of the time you will absorb it all. If you see these like 10,000 calorie challenges, they're absorbing almost all that energy. Like there's no reason to think like, oh yeah, I only absorbed half of it. No, unless you have some kind of weird gut problem, you probably absorbed every single gram, or at least the vast majority. So I would say those are two different questions with two different answers. As for how long you can wait to consume more, it depends on how big the meal was. If it was a Thanksgiving feast, you're probably done for the day. You know, you have a big meal at 4 p.m. or something, you don't need any more for the rest of the day. Maybe get in a protein shake before bed or something. But I would say in general, 3 to 5 hours is a good rule of thumb. You don't need to be eating every 2 hours like some bodybuilders do. They're doing that because they process protein more efficiently and they can use more protein because they are on anabolic steroids. All right, the next one, can we train legs and back? You have 2 legs, bro, and 1 back on the same day. Yes, if you have ever deadlifted, you've trained legs and back on the same day. The deadlift is going to work quads a little bit, a lot of hamstrings, a lot of glutes, a lot of adductors, so basically the entire lower body, even the calves a little bit. And then it's going to work the lats quite a bit. I did RDLs yesterday. My lats are sore as ever. Like they're just, I can tell. If I like tickle my armpit, it's sore down there from Romanian deadlifts. So it can work your lats. Yep, my traps also sore as shit. And then my spinal erectors, oh yeah. Left and right. They're both sore. So basically, yes, you can work your back and legs on the same day. It really just depends on your split, the intensity, how heavy you go, and then your volume as well. All right, the next one. Do you ever feel on some days when you're working out that you are a lot weaker than, example, a week ago? I did 110 by 5 for squats. I hope that's kilos, bro. Then 2 sessions in a row, I could barely complete 2 reps with 110 kilos. Okay, it's good. Respect. Any tips? It's hard to say from afar. Maybe I'll do a full video on like why you had a bad workout, but usually it's lack of recovery. But if it was a whole week, maybe you should up your frequency. You got those gains, and then they fucking trickled away by the time you went back to the squat rack. Unlikely, but possible. It could also be technique. It could be tightness. It could be something else you did. So, for example, my recent workout, my max single was 110 kilos in the squat, when before I was doing it for sets of 5. It's because I did 6 sets of RDLs beforehand, and my lower back was just, absolutely trashed. And hamstrings and everything. So I would say check your programming, check your diet, check your sleep, and then maybe your technique as well. But it's sort of hard for me to diagnose without getting a full picture, like I would with a client. The next one, cardio once a week, is it worth it, or is the frequency too low to be impactful? So with almost any type of training, you get diminishing returns. So 1 day of cardio per week, I don't know what type of cardio it is, but 1 theoretical day of cardio is probably getting you 70 to 80% of the gains. I just made that number up. Could be 85, could be 60, could be 65, could be 50, but it's getting you a very good chunk of the gains, of those cardio gains. So yes, I would say it is absolutely worth doing once per week. And don't think like, oh, well, I can't go to the gym for 2 hours, therefore I won't go at all. Well, no, going for 30 minutes gets you the majority of the benefit. So diminishing returns is an absolutely powerful thing to keep in mind when deciding how to program. Number 69. It's getting dark out when I'm doing this Q&A. The things I do for you guys. I understand that becoming a client will have certain advantages, but will buying your book help me get started with what to do in the gym? If I use the book alone, what should I be careful about? Good question. So the book is not like a supplement to my coaching or a supplement to my YouTube channel or Medium or Quora or anything. I wrote the book before I wrote a single word on Quora or started YouTube or did any of that. So it is a standalone product. It has everything you need. Of course, coaching is going to be a lot more involved on my part. It's going to be a lot more individualized and personalized and probably a lot more effective too. But that's not to say the book is useless at all. As for what to keep in mind, I would say treat it more as a guideline. You still have to be active if you want to coach yourself. I think too many people, they leave themselves open to the internet exploiting them. And I'm not saying I'm exploiting any people at all, but they leave themselves open towards like misinformation or relying on one source too much because they don't get in the idea that they need to experiment and be involved in their training. Experiment in your training. It's absolutely vital. So, do a training plan from the book, but feel free to tweak it with other stuff, or feel free to, the squats are causing me knee issues. Oh, the program is bad. Well, no, it could be your technique. It could be a whole bunch of other things. So if you're going to use the book, and this goes for my book, any book at all, use it as guidelines. Use it as a framework to actually get a starting point in your training. And this goes with like a 5x5 program, any program that you do. And this is the benefit of coaching in that it can be flexible over time. And this goes with, if I'm your coach or if someone is coaching themselves, you need to be adaptable in your training. If I say something in the book, at the end of the day, it's my opinion. And it's written in a very general sense. So if I say do something in the 10 to 20 rep range, but you prefer doing it for sets of 8 to 10, it's not like I'm going to find you and like hunt you down and like make you do 2 more reps to be in the proper rep range. At the end of the day, it's your training, your choices, and you need to be able to, on some level, train instinctively. Now, it is an excellent resource. It has 4.8 stars now. It went down to 0.1. Someone rated it 3 stars. But it has 4.8 stars for a reason. It's a very good resource. But treat it as a starting point and be active and involved in your training. Someone called it like the Bible of fitness, but it's not the Bible because it's not gospel, and you should be active and involved and don't just treat it as like set in stone type of stuff, because you should be active in your own training. All right, number 71, I had to turn on the lights. Oh no, number 70. Reps in reserve, how to use them in multiple sets. The same as you would with one set. Just try to accurately predict how many reps you have left. You can do 3 sets, RPE 10, 10, 10. Obviously, you're going to get a pretty big drop off in performance. You could reduce the weight, you could reduce the reps, but something is going to have to give. If that first set was a true RPE 10, the next sets could be absolutely trashed, which is okay. Maybe you still get something from that. Or you could do more of a sets across type of approach where, maybe you're doing 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps. The first one is like an RPE 8. The next one is RPE 9. The next one is an RPE 10, and you go to true failure. That can be a good way to do it. It's up to you. It depends on the exercises as well. For squats, I tend to do more of a sets across type of approach. You should still be working hard. All of the sets should still be fairly close to failure. But I think like squat to failure is sort of overdoing it at some points. So basically you use it in the same way. You just might structure how close you go to failure a little bit differently depending on your training program. Next one, 71. How dangerous do you think strongman training is compared to other methods of weightlifting? Compared to like typical bro gym bodybuilding, especially, done safely, I would say it's more dangerous. Like a stone lift, you can pop your biceps. I think Larry Wheels did that. It's a lot of like spinal loading type of stuff, like yoke carries, super heavy. Obviously, you can go as heavy as you want to, but I think a lot of the movements require a lot of core strength, which people might not have, and if they don't have that, maybe not the best choice. If you look at a lot of strongmen, they are very thick through the midsection. They have a lot of muscle mass in that area just to support and brace that area because there's a lot of forces happening, stabilizing, pressure, shear, etc. And therefore they tend to develop some thickness. Next one, can I tell if I have insulin resistance or diabetes just from how I store body fat? I would say sometimes, yeah. You can have diabetes at a completely normal BMI, not fat at all. But I would say there's a correlation. There's definitely a pretty strong correlation between obesity and diabetes, and especially if you have a belly, that highly inflammatory visceral fat is going to be certainly very strongly correlated with diabetes and with insulin resistance. By this point, I've written more than 400 training plans, and so I see pictures, and then I also see if someone is pre-diabetic. Sometimes I see their blood work, and yeah, if I see someone with a belly, often they have a family history of diabetes, or they have diabetes themselves, or they're pre-diabetic, or they have, higher fasting blood sugar, which is, how pre-diabetes is defined, I guess. They might have higher hemoglobin A1C. So it really just depends. But typically speaking, if someone is lean, there's not as many issues, basically. Number 73, shoulder dominant during chest exercises, what to do. So I would say check my how I built my chest video. It has some tips and strategies for positioning for maximal chesticle involvement. Some people, they tend to flare, they tend to get untucked, and they tend to use a lot of front delt. So really learn to keep the chest up. Cable work can actually help in this regard. But yeah, basically learn how to use the chest. I think something like a crossbody front raise can teach you to like really squeeze across, focusing on the chest rather than the front delt. Like a front raise for front delt rather than chest, as you can see, is quite different. So learn how to activate the chest, maybe lighten the weight, maybe change up your exercise selection as well. All right, the next question, what is your biceps measurement? It looks like about, if I flex, 16 and a half, looks like. And this one is like 12. No, 16 and a half. This one's usually like a little bit smaller for some reason. I am right-handed. Maybe that's part of it. And then my wrist, actually, let me check that as well. You know how hard it is to measure your own biceps? You feel like fucking... and my wrist, which is hopefully easier, I think it's pretty small, actually. It looks like about 7. Yeah, 7. 7 inches. 7 inches on the nose. So wrist size can maybe predict upper body mass. Typically, stronger people have just bigger joints. Thicker, heavier bones. I think I'm sort of smaller jointed. Yeah, I think that's decent. 17 inches would be excellent. I would be very happy with 17 inches. Very few people have a lean 17-inch arm naturally. I mean, I've heard so many people talk shit about 16-inch arms. 16 inches for a natural is a fucking huge lean arm. 18 inches is like very, very few people have naturally. Almost no one. Like it's super rare. I don't think I could achieve that naturally. Maybe, who knows? But I would say 17 inches is more of my sort of long-term goal. And they've been 16 to 16 and a half inches for a while now, just because they haven't really been a focus. But maybe I'll make a push towards 17 inches pretty soon. Second part, what is my FFMI? I would say 23 to 23 and a half, somewhere in that range. I know my height, 1.83 meters, and my weight usually fluctuates between 90 to 95 kilos. Body fat percentage is probably the part where most people mess up. I have people say like, oh, I don't even lift, but I'm 24 FFMI. And I'm just like, what? What the fuck? Usually this is because they brutalize their body fat percentage. They think they're like 18% body fat when they're really like 30% body fat or something. And so they overestimate how much lean body mass they actually have. Based on my calculations, I would say it's anywhere from 23 to 23 and a half. Usually I just say I'm around 23 just to be a little bit conservative. Lifetime goal, 24 to 25, I think is achievable. But, I'm not going to be hitting a 26 FFMI anytime soon. Almost no one hits that naturally. Actually, to be honest, 23 is obviously decently developed. Even 24 is extremely rare to do naturally and stay lean. So, You know, even if you're 22, you can still look really good. Even if you're 21, you probably still look like you lift, especially if you are lean. So I would say don't focus too much on FFMI. Maybe check it periodically a few times per year, but try to be honest in terms of your body fat percentage, because that is going to be where most people mess it up. All right, next one, not a question, but a suggestion. Do some neck curls with harness strapped to neck with weights locked in on chain. Are you saying I have a small neck, bro? Is that what you're saying? All right, end of Q&A.